Welcome to Time for Health. I'm your host, Rachel Fall, and we're very glad you're here. We're going to talk about gardening today because, as we all know, for good health, everybody always says you need more fruits and vegetables. So we're going to talk a little bit about gardening, but gardening means a lot of different things, and we have an OSU Extension Master Gardener here, Kim Harsanje. Did I get it?
Yes, you got
it.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Thank you. A master gardener. I'm like a wannabe gardener in my backyard, but I think gardening can be kind of intimidating to people. So I like what you've done. We're going to kind of break it down about how to get started gardening, because there's a fair amount of prep work that to do it right you should do ahead of time. So correct. What are some questions we should ask ourselves when we're getting started?
Well, first of all, you need to do a site survey to see where you want to have your garden, to make sure it's away from possibly buildings, play areas, existing plants and trees, so you would get the nice sun and rain and all that. Because concrete and blacktop tend to be warm in the summer and they could dry out those places, and might have to water them more. Okay. But it's real important you choose that as well.
I know
wisely.
Some of our, like the location of where you put it, does it also have to do with like the dirt that's underneath and what's good dirt?
Right.
Is it the hard dirt? Is it sand? Is it?
Right. Soil, as far as soil goes, you should have, the soil types are sandy, which let water run through quickly, which you want it to not hold water, where clay holds the water and could keep it too wet and cause problems. But the perfect one is loam, and it's a mixture of all three of the above. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't say. The other one is, well, the loam, which is, it's got organic matter, it's got sand, it's got clay, so it's got all the combinations of those three.
Gotcha.
So you want that, and add compost, manure, and vermiculite for airing it out. So those are the kinds of, and you can do a soil test, I think. At the extension office, you could possibly get one, or at least they could direct you to get one, and kind of see if it's too acidy or too alkaline, as well as what you need to add to it to make it nice.
So, let's say my backyard's a little clay-ish.
Oh yes, in Ottawa County we do that.
Yep.
And Sandusky.
So can you mix in your own, a little bit of sand and a little bit of compost?
Yes, that's called amending the soil. So you can add the sand, you can add the vermiculite, you can add the compost, which is, I actually take all my vegetables and fruits and through the winter and grind them up and put that on there, so it's good vitamins in there that you're not wasting that way.
Right?
So, yep.
Okay. So we've got like the location, and you want to make sure you get some sun, but not like where it's going to be scorched maybe all day long or whatever.
So what you need to do is understand how the sun's seasonal path is in the spring, the summer, the fall, and the winter. So if you have a sunny plant that likes sun, of course you want to put it where it's going to get most sun. Shady ones, like flowers, like begonias, your hostas, all that like shade. Okay. So, and the other thing is to always read. The important thing for me, I tell everybody, is read the label on the plant that you're picking. Yeah. Because it may be cute in a little planter and you just love it, but it gets 20 foot by 20 foot or, whatever. Yeah. And you make the mistake of putting it in a small area and then it overtakes. So you don't want that.
You were talking about flowers, and in my mind, our garden in the back is a lot of vegetables. So really that's your very first question is, what do I want in my garden?
Exactly, yes.
Are we focusing more on vegetables? Do you more want flowers or something like that? Can you do a combination?
Well, the Amish do, and it looks pretty because they have the flowers on the front and then they're, vegetables in the back, and I've kind of done that. And you could, like marigolds, keep some certain bugs away.
We do that.
You know what I mean? Certain things like that. Yes, it's absolutely. And you should draw a diagram of your area and keep track of that. That way next year when something's not coming up and you're wondering what happened, did it die? Is it coming up later? In the spring, you want to see everything come up. And then if, say, it doesn't, maybe it wasn't happy there, so then you'll have to go pick out something that would fit. Yes.
Okay. We have had to do that, especially when we first plant stuff, is draw a map. Because, something's coming up. What did we put there?
Yeah, exactly. And that really helps you out a lot. Yeah. So, And you know, you got to know your budget. How much can I spend on this? You know what I mean? Because year after year. And then the other thing is, the other important thing is, I tell everybody, you know, I know you have these big ideas and maybe you have enough help to do more, but I do I don't know if you've heard of square foot gardening, but it's 4 foot by 4 foot, which I took my big, probably 20 foot by 30 foot garden bed and I switched it to the 4 by 4s, and I had more yield in those than I did, because you can plant your plants closer based on what they say. And your weeding is maybe 20 minutes a week.
Oh,
See, the weeds
sure.
can't get in there if the plants are in there.
Gotcha.
And then because otherwise, if you plant this big thing and then the weeds come, because the weeds will come.
They will come.
And you'll just be going, I can't do this, I can't keep up. And then you'll be disappointed and it'll be a failure, and you don't want that.
No, because that we
You know, you get
learn the hard way.
a lot of things going on in your life, especially these days, you know. So.
The other thing, when you said thinking about, you know, the space and what do you want, and your grand plans. Oh, I love zucchinis. Let's plant zucchinis. Well, zucchinis come in mass, and it's like I don't have enough friends to give all these zucchinis to.
Right.
So, also, you know, suggesting not necessarily just starting your space out small, but starting your number of plants out maybe a little smaller.
And
tomatoes, I mean, everything can do the same
I mean,
thing.
and people can years ago a lot more than they do now, or freeze. You know, you can freeze some of that.
Yes.
You know, and have it for later. So, but yeah, it
That's
seems
another
like they
show.
come
We'll
into
do that.
abundance. Yeah. So, and then the other really important thing I want to tell everybody is read the labels. If you buy a plant, read the label. How to care for it, what it likes most, wet soil, dry soil. But how big is it going to get? Is it going to get 2 foot by 4 foot, 1 foot by 1 foot, or 20 foot by 20 foot? So, you know, you got to read those labels to make sure what you're getting. That's really important. The other thing I'd say, as far as herbs, grasses, and sedums, herbs especially can be very invasive. They just go, and they'll take over your garden. So you got to watch them. And sometimes what you can do with those is plant them in a container in the ground, and then their roots won't be able to go anywhere.
Okay.
To keep them smaller.
Okay.
But herbs are great. People love them, but they can just
They can really get out of hand. Okay.
And the other thing I was going to say is you want a variety of height, width, color, and texture.
Okay.
So in other words, the taller plants, like say it's a flower garden, taller plants in the back, your grasses, then go down, step down, and then when you look at it, you'll see all the beauty. You know, if you mix them all up, then they're all going to be
hidden.
And, stuff like that. So
we have. Again, we've done it in our backyard for a few years, so each year we learn something new. The marigolds, yes, very handy, and also kind of putting more flowers sort of in the landscaping up by the pollinators, just inviting pollinators.
Oh yes, so that's a big thing with the bees.
Having
the bees
plants other places too, so that it's an inviting area for things to grow and be pollinated.
Right, and the bees having trouble with that virus. They have a certain virus. I'm not a big bee, you know, and it's really, we've got to, I mean, they pollinate everything, so we've got to take care of them. That's for sure. Yeah.
What about watering? One of the things you really want to make sure is you have a source of water there, otherwise you're carrying buckets.
That's right. And so that's a true thing. So you need to see what your water source is. Are you going to need a 100-foot hose for it? You know, what do you want to do about that? Is it near or far? But dripping irrigation is probably the best thing you can do, because it slowly waters it and gives the plant time to get a drink, and then you're not using a bunch of water. And that takes expense and time, but you got to make sure.
Is it the hoses like with the
with
holes?
A little, yes,
okay.
And it slowly drips. My son did that to all his square foot gardening, so he doesn't have to spend time out there watering it, because you're supposed to water in the morning, not at night, because then the mold and other things can start growing when it's dark like that. So.
And I do know you're not supposed to necessarily water like midday, because it's so hot and it could actually
and the sun could
scorch things.
Yes.
Okay.
Boil it up and.
So, but morning is better than evening.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, I learned something already.
Yes.
So there's lots of forethought that not a lot, but a fair amount of forethought that you need to put into gardening before you actually do it.
Yes.
Now, seeds versus plants, well, what do you...
Well, the thing with seeds, and if you're a beginner planter, that they take time to come up and you can't do it till after the frost, you know, so that's, for a beginner gardener, I'd say just buy the plants, and then once you get comfortable, maybe you could have a cold, outside a cold, like with glass, and you can try to start your own seeds. It's a lot of work to do that, but hey, everybody gets excited when it grows up, you know what I'm saying? So, what else was I going to say about? So the other thing is how much time, you know, you need to say, how much time, Kim, am I going to have to work on this garden, you know, and am I going to have someone to help me? Is the family going to help or not? You know, again, so you're not defeated right away. You've got to, you know, take this on, and if you can get help, that's wonderful. But if you can't, then again, you're going to be, you know.
It is, you know, the weeds will come.
Oh, yes.
The watering needs to be done.
Yes,
you
yes,
know.
yes.
And now, raised beds versus non.
Well, and this is the other thing. Let's say you've got a handicapped person or a person in a wheelchair. So I find my raised beds are nice. They're like up this high, so I don't have to bend back-breaking work with them. I can just walk up to them and pull the weeds. For a handicapped person or a disability where you can't with a back problem or legs or whatever it is, you know, those are really good for those kind of folks. And then you can have a wand on your hose to water with either. It would make it easier for you to do that. So,
and we have, I mean, they're raised beds, but they're in the ground. So they're not 2x4s, but whatever, the wood, and then so that the soil is raised up over top of the ground soil. We tried it in the ground soil, and I don't remember if it was too much rain or too little rain that first year, but we were like, oh no. So it was an investment, and we kind of started out, you know, added 1 or 2 at a time, but raised it up because that just helps with the water, it seemed like.
And
of course it either pours rain or no rain or
and it just seems that you can work it better. The soil will work better for you, and it's not in the hard ground, especially in this area because of clay. But I really like mine, and then you can amend it really easily, and you know, to work it up, like I said, and just to have that. And I think, and maybe I'm wrong, I should talk to a weed expert, but it seems like less weeds blow in it because it's up a little higher. The seeds, you know what I mean? So to me, that it seems like it's...
They still come, but you're right, not as much as in the ground.
But if you have just, like I say, if you have like 3 4-foot squares, okay, you get your first one done and you weed it all out and you're like, oh man, that's nice. So then you go to the next one, you know, and then you feel really good about yourself because you were able to conquer these 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you accomplished.
Yes.
We have a few minutes left, and so space, soil, water source, what do you want to grow, what are you going to be able to manage, raised in the ground beds, all those things to think about. Any other kind of master gardener words of wisdom for somebody who's, you know, prepping to garden, either for the first time or not for the first time?
Right, like I said, I think you should start out small, read all your labels, make sure your soil's good, do all these things that we talked about, you know, and design it, and, you know, see how much it's going to cost, and just decide on, you know, what you want, you know, to do it, and keep those records. So then year after year you can find out, you know, what you have. And now being part of the Master Gardener program, it was about 15 years when I took the class from OSU Extension, and my sister-in-law and I gardened for 30 years. Well, it happened that she had to take a class before mine, and I said, so what are we going to learn more that we already, she goes, we don't know a whole lot. You're going to, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. You know, so it was very, and it's very wonderful. We volunteer and we help, you know, the community.
Is there a discussion group? I feel like when my husband has questions about our garden, he goes to a discussion group online, maybe on Facebook or something. I don't know if some of your members are part of that, but I just think that that's helpful, you know, when something comes up and you're like, what is this? Is this a weed or a...
And at the Extension office is in Ottawa County, which is on Lake Street in Oak Harbor, and the one in the Sandusky County Extension office on Countryside Drive. We have phone numbers. You can call there anytime.
Yep, we'll put them
like
up on
say
the
you have a bug in your tree or a virus or anything, a plant, and you can even take the bug in a bag and say, what is this? And somebody there will help you figure it all out, which is nice.
That's awesome.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So you don't leave us hanging.
Nope,
I love it.
no.
Thank you very
want to
much.
help. Thank you.
All right. So getting ready to garden, whether it's flowers or vegetables or a little bit of both, there's a little bit of homework, but you'll be happy you did it in the long run. So hopefully maybe this has piqued some interest for some people, or maybe you have a garden already and this will just help you improve a few things for this year. So you can also share this information with someone you know and love if you know they have a garden. And until we meet again, I encourage you to make time for health.